Look at a football field. It looks like a big movie screen. This is theater. Football combines the strategy of chess. It's part ballet, it's part battleground, and it's part playground. We clarify, amplify, and glorify the game with our footage, and in the end we create an inspirational piece of footage. This quote's by Steve Sabol, director of NFL Films, describing one of America's favorite pastimes and the largest community we have, one of the largest communities that we have in the United States. The purpose of my speech is to describe the history of the NFL, the current state of it, and go over a lot of the reasons why we continue to love this game so much. Many of us have watched football games growing up with our family. Either we've played the game in high school or middle school, and most of us in some way or another know somebody that's completely and utterly addicted to football. It's become so popular, in fact, that it's just commonplace. I mean, it's one of the most neglected, you just assume that everybody likes football. In fact, they say 30% of Americans, according to recent studies, claim it to be their favorite sport. The football was not always as popular as this, and it hasn't been around as long as baseball and soccer and some other games. It's literally become a more modern American game that's evolved with our tastes and our culture over time. Football started out as a creation by Princeton and Rutgers University, kind of an experiment in 1862, combining some of the game of soccer and the game of rugby. The early game that they played that day in 1862 had very little resemblance to current football. The footballs were larger. The teams had almost no padding on, just some polo shirts, and they didn't hit each other very hard either. As the game spread to other campuses across the East Coast, amateur leagues started up, and those amateur leagues spread all the way across the United States as the union got bigger and sports became more popular. In 1910, Pop Warner, the leader of an all-Native American football team, really popularized the forward pass, which changed the game of football and created more of the concept that we have in the modern day. With that rise of the forward pass and the increased scoring that happened, the popularity of the game took off. It became something that wasn't just for amateurs and for college students, it became a money-making opportunity. A lot of teams started experimenting with ways in which they could pay their amateur or collegiate athletes. Not long after, the pro teams started popping up, and they had to start to create leagues and have officiating bodies. The founder of the Kansas City Chiefs, Lamar Hunt, was famous for starting the AFL as a separate team, a football league from the NFL that eventually melded with the NFL. He brought along it with 16 different teams to join with the NFL's other 16 teams in the early 60s to create the modern league that we have right now. In addition to the rule changes and the division changes and the spread of football, they've had large increases in the safety of the game and in the equipment that were used. Like I said, back in the original days, the people were just wearing shirts. There was no padding at all. Eventually they realized that, well, if we're going to hit each other in the mud, we probably should have some pads. So they started using leather pads and leather helmets. That didn't last very long. Leather helmets and leather pads didn't do very much for protection. And actually, back from a study done by North Carolina University, from the 30-year period of 1939 to 1969, 72 professional football players were killed. They were killed, those were on-the-field fatalities. That number has drastically changed this day and age. In the last 10 years, there's only been two cases of on-field fatality in the game of football. And most of that's due to the increases in the level of protection. Modern NFL teams and players have large shoulder pads and large helmets with lots of padding, and the NFL continues to develop new technologies for that. The current state of football in the United States has become quite the money-making opportunity. There's all new forms of consuming football for people to do it. It's not just about communities getting together and people sharing the Sunday football game anymore. With the inclusion of fantasy football, which is now, according to Forbes magazine, a $70 billion industry separate just from the NFL itself, the fantasy football has become its own popular community. People get together and start teams, draft players, and they make money. The new advertisements for the new websites related to fantasy football advertise that participants can make up to $1 million participating in fantasy football. And it also is a form of community for those who participate in that. At work, a lot of people talk about their fantasy football teams. It becomes kind of a popular story to tell, and people brag about their teams to each other, and that has added to the increase in community with the game itself. The other large new increase with the football in the United States has been the EA Sports creation of Madden NFL game, which has sold over 1 million copies to date. So clearly a lot of people are consuming football at just remarkable levels, and the only thing that's slowing down the growth of football and popularity has been the new concerns over injuries that are lasting to former players. Controversies have come out over the CTE scandals, which is the concussion syndrome that has led to long-standing mental issues and lack of clarity, and has even led to some players like Junior Seau committing suicide with linkages to that CTE condition. So with all the consumerization of football and the ever-changing battle to control the injuries and to make the game safer, even though it's inherently a violent sport, and why do we love this game so much? What causes us all to join in this community? Well, what football gives a lot of people is it gives them an excuse or a reason to get together with family and friends and have something to talk about, have something to share, and have a common goal and have a common enemy. Especially in the NFL, where you have 32 teams, most people have decided who their favorite team is. Like for me, I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan because I live in Kansas City, and I definitely don't like the Denver Broncos. This Thursday was quite disappointing. When people get together to watch the football games, they have their own form of language and communication. Many of it's nonverbal, and much of it is very, very verbal. It brings people together in a way that they can say, maybe before this day we weren't friends, but today, we're Chiefs fans and we both hate the Broncos. So that always brings people together as having a common enemy. And the other big aspect that people continue to like about it is with any sport, is it's a way for families to have physical exercise together and to get out and to play things. My family used to go out on Thanksgiving and play with other families in the neighborhood. We would play flag football games, and there was moms and dads and little kids, and sometimes even people's grandparents that were able enough would participate in that, and it was a fun way for the community and neighborhood that we had to get together over a similar fun game to do. So, as you can see, football is an integral part of our society. It's a large community, and many people have different interest levels, different things they like about it, but nearly everybody has some way or another that they've participated in the football community. And I hope all of you guys don't neglect the fact that it's going to continue to change and it's not going anywhere. Thanks.